guys, so welcome ulit sa ating YouTube channel. Ito na yung lesson 29 sa ating complex analysis. This is all about more examples about Taylor series. So kumbaga dinagdagan ko konti. So naglagay ako ng at z not is equal to 3. Okay, so now obtain the Maclaurin or Taylor series as indicated. So kunyari wala akong binigay na value, meaning Maclaurin series. Kunyari binigay ako to na z not is equal to 3, meaning ang kinukuha natin is Taylor series. Okay, so tuloy natin dyan. So tignan nyo, f of z is equal to z cos z squared. So ideally, meron lang tayo si cos. Actually wala pa tayong cos kasi meron lang si sinh. Okay, then obviously alam natin na ang derivative ng cos o ang derivative ng sinh, note that the derivative of sinh of z is just equal sa cos of z. So meaning pag kinuha ko yung derivative nun nung summation nung kanina, ang mangyari lang is just yung cos of z, since wala naman negative, parang sa cosine ng magiging summation for n is equal to 0 up to infinity ng z raised to 2n over 2n factorial. Okay, so walang negative 1 na involved. Okay, ngayon ang una natin kunin is si cos z squared tapos yung z. Gusto natin kunin yung Maclaurin series representation nun. So ang gagawin ko, yung z cos of z squared magiging ganito. Magkakaroon ako ng z sa labas kasi may multiply na z. Then i-multiply ko siya dito. I-multiply ko siya sa summation for n is equal to 0 up to infinity. Yung z gagawin kong z squared. Kasi z squared yung ginagamit. Diba? Z raised to 2n, gagawin ko yung z squared. So ito ay magiging z squared raised sa 2n pa rin. Over 2n factorial. Okay, then this is equal sa z, then summation for n is equal to 0 up to infinity ng z raised sa 4n over 2n factorial. Ngayon yung z, pag pinasok ko dyan, ang mangyari, pwede siya pumasok sa loob ng summation. So pag pinasok ko siya, sa lahat ng term, nag-add ka ng z. So anong nangyari? That is z raised to 4n plus 1. So mag-add lang. So ang mangyari, ganito lang. This is equal to summation for n is equal to 0 up to infinity ng z raised to 4n times z all over 2n factorial. Kasi yung ibig sabihin nito, sa lahat ng term nag-add ako ng z. So ibig sabihin, sa lahat ng term mag-multiply ako ng z. So sorry. Then therefore, ano mangyari? Pag pinag-simplify ko yan, since isang z lang yung kailangan natin, kasi power series yung hinahanap natin eh. Therefore, this is z cos of z squared is equal to summation for n is equal to 0 up to infinity ng z raised to 4n plus 1 all over 2n factorial. So therefore, ito yung kanyang Maclaurin series representation. Okay, so ganun lang gagawin nyo pag may ganyan na akong bagay na nilagay. Ayan, next. Meron tayo na to. G of z is equal to z over z to the 4 plus 9 at z not is equal to 3. So paano naman gagawin dyan? So dito naman, ang idea is kailangan mapunta tayo sa form na to. Kasi ito yung meron tayo. So kailangan maging 1 minus z siya. Okay, or something. So paano natin gagawin yun? Okay, so ito ang idea, kailangan maging ganyan. Kasi ito yung basic natin dyan eh. Okay, so I think ang gagawin ko, syempre kailangan matanggal, kailangan maging 1 yung sa taas, tapos kailangan maging 1 minus something z. Okay, so for example, pwede kong gawin ganito to, ano, yung g of z is equal to z over z to the 4 plus 9. Ang gagawin ko, ipa-factor out ko dito yung z sa taas, tapos sa ilalim 9. So may matitirang 1 sa taas. Okay, ngayon, nung pinactor out ko yung z9 sa ilalim, diba z taas pinactor out ko, natanggal. So dito na pinactor out ko yung 9 sa ilalim. Ano nangyari? Yung z to the 4 nagkaroon ng 9 sa ilalim, then yung 9 naging 1 kasi nilabas ko siya eh. Okay, then i-arrange na lang natin konti. So this is basically equal to z raised to 9, z over 9 times 1 over 9 ko yung 1. Okay, then minus negative z to the fourth over 9. So kung napansin mo, meron tayong forma na ganito. Yung 1 minus 1, 1 over 1 minus z. So where z natin is negative z to the fourth over 9. So ayun yung gagawin natin dito. So applying yung ating rule na yun, this is z over 9 multiplied by summation for n is equal to 0 up to infinity nung z raised to n. Eh yung z natin is negative z. This is negative z to the fourth over 9 raised sa n. So ayun sinasabi ko, nilagay ko siya sa loob. Kasi z raised to n lang siya. Okay, next is, ang gagawin niya sir, i-simplify ko further sa loob. This is z over 9. Then this is summation for n is equal to 0 up to infinity ng negative 1 raised to n. Meron na. Kasi negative 1 na yun. So negative 1 raised to n. Tapos z raised sa 4n. All over 9 raised to n. Or pwedeng ganito. 3 raised sa 2n. Kasi nga 9 raised sa n. So yung 9 is 3 squared. So ginawa kong ganyan. Next, ito ay 3 squared. Papasok sa loob pati ito. So ang mangyari, this is equivalent sa summation for n is equal to 0 up to infinity ng negative 1 raised to n ng z raised sa 4n. Papasok ko yung z sa numerator. Okay, dun sa ilalim papasok ko yung 9. Yung 9 is 3 squared. Okay, so that is 3 raised sa 2n times 3 squared. Okay, therefore simplify natin konti. This is equal sa summation for n is equal to 0 up to infinity ng negative 1 raised to n ng z raised sa 4n plus 1 all over 3 raised sa 2n plus 2. Okay, ngayon, ang gagawin natin is i-evaluate natin siya sa factor na dapat may lagay natin yung 3. Okay, so ang gagawin ko lang since z naught, diba ito yung z naught. Okay, yung z naught na yan, z minus 0. Ngayon, meron na siyang z naught na 3. So, this is equivalent lang sa summation for n is equal to 0 infinity ng negative 1 raised to n ng z minus 3 raised sa 4n plus 1 all over 3 raised sa 2n plus 2. Okay, so ito yung kanyang Taylor series representation. This is at z naught is equal to 3. Ito yung Maclaurin. Kasi nga 0 to. So kung napansin mo, ano atake ginagawa na siya? Ang atake ginagawa ko is through Maclaurin muna, tapos sa-substitute ko na lang sa loob, or ipapasok ko na lang sa loob yung z naught na nakukuha natin. Okay, next is number 3. H of z is equal to z cube cos 1 over c. So similar siya sa kanina sa number 1, no? So ang gagawin ko na lang, this is z cube cos of 1 over z. So Maclaurin series pinapahanap. This is z cube multiplied by summation for n is equal to 0 up to infinity. Since yung cos is z raised to 2n over 2n factorial, so mangyari this is 1 over z raised sa 2n over 2n factorial. Okay, ganyan na magiging equivalent niya. So simplify ko muna yung nasa loob ng summation. This is z cube, then summation for n is equal to 0 up to infinity ng 1 raised sa 2n sa taas na yun. So this is 1 raised sa 2n all over z raised sa 2n tapos 2n factorial. Okay, kasi ilalim siya. Ngayon yung 1 raised to 2n is just 1. Okay, so meaning multiply ko lang to sa loob yung z sa taas doon. Okay, so ang mangyari, this is just equal sa summation for n is equal to 0 up to infinity ng z cube over z raised sa 2n then 2n factorial. Next, ang goal natin dapat yung z nasa taas. So meaning yung z raised to 2n magiging z raised to negative 2n tas attach natin sa z cube. So therefore, this is just equal sa summation for n is equal to 0 up to infinity ng z raised sa 3 minus 2n over 2n factorial. So ito yung kanyang Maclaurin series representation. Okay. So next is we need to obtain the Maclaurin series pa rin kasi z naught is equal to 0 ng ln of 1 plus z at z naught is equal to 0. Okay, so ayun yung susunod natin gagawin. Okay, so paano nga ba gagawin natin sa ln? So dito naman makukuha natin sa ln as if. Okay, so nag-iisip kasi ako ng way. Remember na meron tayong 1 over 1 minus z. Ma-check ko lang kung tutugma yung gagawin ko. Remember na meron tayong 1 over 1 minus z. This is equal sa summation for n is equal to 0 up to infinity ng z raised to n. Okay, then next is ang gusto ko kasi mangyari, pag in-integrate ko to, kung naalala ko, ang integral nito is ln of 1 minus z. Tama? So, ibig sabihin, possible kong kunin to by integration. Pero ang kailangan natin is 1 plus z. Paano siya magiging 1 plus z? So, anong i-replace natin kay z para maging 1 plus z yung ilalim? So, I think dapat siya ay negative z. No, kung gagawin natin negative dito, so meaning ang gagawin ko, ito ay i-evaluate ko yung 1 minus negative z kasi siya yung 1 over 1 plus z. Tama? So, this is equivalent sa summation for n is equal to 0 up to infinity ng negative z raised to n, in which this is equal sa summation for n is equal to 0 up to infinity ng negative 1 raised to n then z raised to n pa rin. Okay, so ito daw yung Maclaurin series representation ni 1 over 1 plus z. Okay, ngayon, ang gagawin ko is i-integrate ko yan. Okay, so try natin i-integrate. So integrate natin si 1 over 1 plus z. Okay, with respect sa dz. Then yung summation, then i-integrate natin siya. Yung summation for n is equal to 0 up to infinity ng negative 1 raised to n tapos z raised to n. Since yung constant lang naman si negative 1 raised to n dyan, yung z raised to n mag-undergo lang ng power rule. Tama? So this is just equivalent sa, I think this is ln. So this is ln ng 1 plus z. Okay, which is equal sa summation for n is equal to 0 up to infinity ng negative 1 pa rin, nandiyan pa rin yan. Tapos may integrate natin by power rule, that is z raised to n plus 1 over n plus 1. Okay, so kung tama ako kasi by power rule, kasi mag-add lang tayo ng 1. So therefore, ang ating Maclaurin series representation ng ln of 1 plus z is ito. Ngayon, so ready na tayong hanapin si ln of z para magkaroon tayo ng basis. So, paano natin makukuha naman si ln of z? Si ln of z, pag ni-replace natin to by 1 minus z, or by negative 1 plus z, or z minus 1 rather. So, kunyari ginawa kong ln of z minus 1 plus 1. So, meaning ito ipapalit ko sa loob kasi ito yung plus 1. So, this is just equal. So, dito ko na nalagay. This is just equal sa ln of 1 plus z minus 1 kasi itong yung magiging z. So that is equal sa summation for n is equal to 0 up to infinity ng negative 1 raised to n ng z minus 1 raised to n plus 1 over n plus 1. So kung napansin mo, automatic pala siyang may ang tawag dito, automatic pala siya, no? Pag ln of z, automatic pala siya parang may z naught, that is 1. Kaya pala, in example is 1 plus z. Okay, so ito yung para magiging basis natin dalawa. Pag ln of z ito. Pag ln of 1 plus z ito. Okay, so kung napansin mo, nag-integrate naman ako. So minsan discard rin talaga. Pwedeng differentiate, integration. Kasi nga pasok naman dito yan. Okay, next, last number. So ito, pahirapan natin. So if n of z is equal to 1 plus z cube over z cube plus z over 5. Paano yan? Okay, so naisip ko na yung gagawin. What if i-factor out natin yung z cube sa ilalim? Okay, so check ko muna yung unang gagawin ko. Ang unang gagawin ni sir, yung 1 plus 2z cube over z cube plus z raised to 5. Pa-factor out ko muna yung 1 over z cube, meaning yung z cube sa ilalim. So this is simply equal sa 1 plus 2 z cube over 1 na lang to plus z squared. So another thing, may problem meron akong over 1 plus z squared. So kumbaga meron akong z squared na pwedeng gamitin. And ang problema ko na lang, dapat yung taas maging ganoon din siya. Okay, so dapat maging somewhat na wait, may napansin ako. 1 plus 2z cube, sorry, pakipalitan. So this is squared. Hindi ko kasi makukuha yung sagot. This is squared. This is squared. Hindi ko magagawa yung gusto kong gawin. Okay, so pakipalitan, that is square. Okay, so square na yun. Ngayon, ang gusto kong mangyari, kailangan magkaroon ako ng 1 over 1 plus z squared. So I think pwede kong gawin dito is gagawin ko tong 2, yung 1 equal siya sa 2 minus 1. Tama? So ang gagawin ko, this is 1 over z cube multiplied by 2 plus 2z squared minus 1. So 1 pa rin yan. Wala lang, kumbaga, umadjust lang ako sa kailangan kong gawin. Kasi nakikita ko na yung 1 plus z squared sa taas eh. So factor out ko yun to dyan. So mangyari, that is 1 over z cube multiplied by 2 times 1 plus z squared minus 1 all over 1 plus z squared. Then, paghiwalayin kong ganun, kumbaga, 1 plus z squared over 1 plus z squared, cancel yun. So, magiging 2. Tapos dito, negative 1 over 1 plus z squared. So, mangyari, this is just equal sa 1 over z cube multiplied by 2 na lang to. Okay? Minus 1 over 1 plus z squared. So, dito, pwede ako mag-Maclaurin series representation. Okay? Then, before yun, syempre, multiply ko muna to. So, multiply ko yung z cube. So, this is 2 over z cube minus 1 over z cube multiplied by 1 over 1 plus z squared. So, dito ako magma-Maclaurin series representation nung 1 minus z natin. Kasi yun yung basis natin eh. Okay, so obviously dito, proceed na tayo dyan. That is 2 z cube. Okay, minus 1 over z cube multiplied by 1 over 1 minus negative z squared. So, para mapunta lang sa form na kailangan natin. Okay, then, this is equivalent or equal sa 2 over z cube minus 1 over z cube multiplied by summation for n is equal to 0 up to infinity ng negative z squared raised sa n. So, obviously siya ay equal sa 2z cube minus 1 over z cube multiplied by summation for n is equal to 0 up to infinity ng negative 1 raised to n tapos z raised sa 2n. Okay, din ipapasok ko yung z cube sa loob. Okay, so yung z cube lang as if. So, mangyari, this is just equal sa 2 over z cube minus summation for n is equal to 0 up to infinity ng negative 1 raised to n z raised sa 2n minus 3. Okay, so I think hindi ko na to pwede maipasok dun. Okay, so I think this is ready. Ito na yung kanyang Maclaurin series representation. Okay, ito na yung kanyang power series representation. Ang nangyari nga lang, may sobra. Kumbaga, may sobrang term, then yung kanyang Maclaurin series representation. Sir, bakit nagkaroon ng sobra? Dahil sa mga factor or case, may mga cases na na-multiply dyan. Okay, so therefore, ito yung kanyang Maclaurin series representation. Okay, yung kanyang compact form. So, kunyari, try natin i-expand. Kunyari, expand natin yan. So, una, syempre, nandyan na, fix na to. Si 2 over z cube minus nandito. So, for n is equal to 0, so positive siya. So, that is z raised to negative 3 or 1 over z raised to negative 3. Pag 0. So, for n is equal to 1, that is minus. minus z raised to negative 1. Tama? So that's 1 over z. Then for n is equal to 2, that is positive. That is z na lang. Kasi 2 times 2 minus 3 is 1. Okay, then for n is equal to 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3 na. For n is equal to 3, this is negative pa rin. Then magiging z cube. Kasi 3 times 2 is 6 minus 3, that is z cube. Then plus sunod, that minus. Okay, so kung napansin mo, pag in-evaluate pa natin o pag sinimplify pa natin, may epekto. May direct effect yung 2 minus z cube. So literal, ito ay magiging 1 over z cube na lang kasi the direct impact. Tapos yung negative magiging positive to. Then 1 over z minus ito magiging z plus magiging z cube. Then minus plus naman. Ayun yung mangyayari. So ngayon, pag sinama na natin siya, at least pwede ko nang ma-re-evaluate yung aking series since 1 over z cube pa rin. Makukuha ko pa rin naman to. Ngayon ang mangyayari, since positive siya sa una, then positive, mahirap kunin. Tama? Kasi nga, kunwari, positive. Kasi positive una eh. Tapos negative plus negative positive. So, ang hirap kunin talaga ng Maclaurin series. Compact form niya, I mean. Okay, kasi nga, iba na yung sign dito. Kasi positive, minus positive, minus positive, minus positive. Nag-alternate siya bigla dun sa iba. So, dito lang sa una. Kumbaga talagang isolated tong part na to. Okay, so ito yung kanyang Maclaurin expansion. Okay, so that's all for this video. So hoping na naintindihan mo yung paggawa natin ng Maclaurin series representation saka Taylor series representation. So naglagay ako ng isang Taylor series representation. Okay, then by next video, pag-usapan natin si Lorentz series. So kakaiba naman siya. Power series siya, pero hindi siya Taylor series. Magkaiba sila ng Taylor series. Malaki pa nagkaiba nila Taylor series. Okay? So, thank you for watching and hoping na manood ko pa sa mga next video natin.